Hey everyone, it's Terry with Terry's Tidbits and the Des Moines Area Community College. In this week's admin study group, we started the conversation around data and analytics. So we talked about importing data, backing up data, data validation rules. We hit, I believe it was reports and report types. Those are the items for this particular video. It's 14% of the overall exam. We will finish it up this coming Tuesday. So stay tuned for the last half of this particular video. But for now, let's jump in and study with the rest of the group. Hey everyone, it's Terry with Terry's Tidbits. I am so glad you're here. All right, we have, after this week, Kurt and I was just talking, we have 3 weeks left. And then we wrap this study group up. And then on week 4, you all take the exam and you all pass and you're all excited and happy and life is good. So hopefully you're all getting, at least taking a little bit of my advice and getting that on the calendar. I do hope that you do. Do it before you forget everything. For sure, it's always good, and getting it on the calendar makes it real. So I hope that you'll take advantage of doing that. We have 3 presenters today. We are on data and analytics management. This is 14% of the overall exam. We will hit 3 of the 5 topics this week. And Ashley, you get to kick us off. So the show is yours.
Awesome. I like going first because mine's not good. So I don't have to follow anybody. Easy enough. All right. So can you all see my screen okay? All right. So I am talking about data imports, backups, exports, updating, transferring, and mass deleting data. Oh yeah, that was my one slideshow animation. Importing data in Salesforce needs to be done with a CSV file. There are 2 main methods to import data into Salesforce, not including just manual entry, because that's just entering data into Salesforce. So importing can be done through the data import wizard, which is inside of Salesforce through setup. The data import wizard can import into custom objects and some standard objects. Those are accounts, contacts, leads, solutions, campaign members, and person accounts if you have person accounts active. I won't get into what person accounts are because that's not what my presentation's about. There is a limit of 50,000 records that you can do at one time. So that is the limitation using the data import wizard, which again is inside of Salesforce through setup. You can also use data loader, and that is a client application outside of Salesforce. So you could use something like dataloader.io, for example, and use your Salesforce login there. And you can import into any standard or custom object. And you can do up to a limit of 5 million records at one time. So the question is, which tool do you want to use and how do you choose it when you want to import data? If you just need it to be simple and it's common imports and it's under 50,000 records, sure, use the data import wizard. That may make sense. It's fairly straightforward. Data loader can be a little bit more complex, but it does give you a little bit more power. And I'll talk more about how those can be automated as well too. You can do that through the data loader API as well, which is pretty neat. Some importing tips. It's always a good best practice to create a small set of data to test before you import. I know it's probably not a question on the test, but thought I would mention it. Review your field mappings prior to importing, because remember, you'll have some required fields on there and it will pop an error if you don't get those right. Date time fields must be formatted correctly. There is a link in my presentation that will take you to how you want to format dates, times, and date time fields. Don't forget to assign your record owners, and the files must be the .csv file extension. Exporting data. This can be done either manually or automatically and on a schedule. There's three main methods for this. You can use the data export service, which is inside of Salesforce, data loader again, which is outside of Salesforce, or you can technically export report data. But back on the data export service, which is inside of Salesforce, this can be done manually or automatically, either once every 7 days, which is weekly, or monthly every 29 days. But not every version of Salesforce allows the weekly exports. It's only in the Enterprise Performance and Unlimited edition. But all the other editions, like plus the ones I mentioned, and that should say professional, not profession, and developer editions can do monthly exports. Something to know there. The data loader does have an option for both manual and automated exports without the limits of the data export service, as mentioned above. And it does not support exporting attachments from Salesforce. I thought that was an interesting note. And then exporting reports, which is the third way, is manual, I would say, for the most part, unless you've maybe scheduled a report or you've subscribed to a report and maybe download the data from there, but that seems a little weird. But yeah, you could just go to report and export it. And that gives you a few different file extensions on how you can do that depending on the report type. But that process is pretty much manual.
Cool. Before you go, on the data export service, what kinds of things can you export there?
I thought anything.
Objects,
yeah.
And your files and attachments. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Can export any object, records, and attachments, right?
Yep.
All right, good deal. All right. Backing up data. Exported data is a way to back up data from Salesforce. There are some considerations though. This is not supported. So like the data export service is not supported in Sandbox. That's something to note. I'm not sure if that's a test question or not. And if the size of the org, so all of the records, all the data you're trying to export from Salesforce becomes very large, it may send you multiple zip files through an email for you to download. If it's a small set of data, it may just be only one zip file. Another note is you can actually export metadata from Salesforce. So that's things like your custom fields, Apex, page layouts, reports, et cetera. Those sort of things can actually be exported as well too, and imported back in, which is kind of cool. So there are instructions on where you would do that. It's a little bit crazy. You go to the package manager, create new components tab, select your metadata types that you want to add to it, and upload it, and then export it, and then it will email you your metadata. There's more information on this here. There's a lot to that. So there's a link to the Salesforce help file on backing up metadata from there. Updating data. There are a few ways to mass update data in Salesforce. That could be through a list view, if you have inline edit available on that particular list view. You could do it with the mass transfer records tool. So if you just needed to transfer records from one owner to another owner, that is a way to mass update records. You could do it through the data import wizard as well. So that would be update existing that you would do there. You could do it through the data loader, also update existing. And a new feature in Salesforce, you can do inline edits in reports, which is really cool. Super, super handy, and it works mostly well, I would say. With the list views, the key is if you don't have inline edit available, you need to set the record type of the records you're looking at, and that will trigger inline edit availability. Oh, a note that I wrote too, if you're going to be updating existing, it's a really good idea to use record IDs if you can. Salesforce can match up to like names, but if you have duplicates and, you know, maybe it's not actually duplicates, but you maybe share leads that have this first same names, it could really mess up your data. So it's always a good practice. If you can update using the record IDs, it's probably the best way to do it. Transferring data. Two main methods. Individual records can be transferred by changing the record owner. That is one way, so you can do that right on the record. Another way that you can do it is through the mass transfer tool, which I mentioned previously. But I did want to bring up that transferring accounts can get pretty complicated depending on how complex your accounts are. So I actually just copied the verbiage that Salesforce wrote about transferring accounts there. It's things like, if you have an open opportunity that's not owned by the existing account owner, to transfer open opportunities owned by other users that are associated with the account. That hurts my brain to even like read that out loud. So I wasn't gonna read every one of these out loud to you because that feels really, really dry. But they are here. You will notice that when you do go to transfer an account from one owner to another in Salesforce, just like a single account transfer, there'll be a little pop-up screen that will ask you these options, like, do you want to transfer the open opportunities to this new person? And correct me if I'm wrong on this, Terry, but I believe that if you have an automation and it transfers the account owners, it will automatically change open opportunities and something else to that new account owner. And you have to, like, if I were to like say, if I made a flow and I transferred one account owner to another account owner, then it would automatically transfer open opportunities to that new owner.
Only if you've got automation set up to do it.
Okay. So
or you're doing it through this process and telling it to do it.
Yeah, right. So some complexities there. I'm not sure if you want to say anything additional about.
No, I think these make really interesting test questions. So I'd at least read through the items to know what you can't do. It wouldn't surprise me if they threw something like this on an exam.
Okay, good to know. More on transferring data. Yeah, there it is. When a record owner changes, some associated items that are owned by the current record owner is also transferred to the new owner. Like contacts, for example. I think that was the other one too, but you could, I guess, avoid this by a toggle maybe. Attachments, notes, open activities, open opportunities, optionally closed opportunities, and optionally open opportunities owned by other users. And then with leads, it will transfer open activities, except when transferring leads to a queue, open activities are not transferred. So that was an interesting note. You can't transfer data to inactive users, and the mass transfer tool doesn't allow you to look up inactive users when transferring records away from them. So I thought that was kind of a silly limitation in Salesforce. What that really means is, like, when you go into the mass transfer tool, if you have records that are owned by an inactive user, it won't allow you to do the lookup of that inactive user to transfer records away from them for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's just a text field.
Yeah,
if I recall right.
And then there's even more information if you want to dig into it a little bit further. So I did link another Salesforce help article if you want to dig further there. Mass data, which is, I guess you better have a really good reason to mass delete data. Otherwise, don't delete data. But you can, Salesforce does have a way for you to mass delete data. It's a feature that you can use through setup in Salesforce. and it will allow you to mass delete cases, solutions, accounts, contacts, leads, products, activities, and report, which aren't types of records, but they can be mass deleted. So I know this is like record types, but yeah, they can be mass deleted. You can, when you mass delete, you can choose to permanently delete. If you don't choose to permanently delete, I believe they stay in the recycle bin for up to 30 days, and you can restore those files if you need. And then more notes on mass deleting data. I wasn't sure if this was super relevant or not. So you can mass delete like up to 250 items at once. When you delete a record, any associated records with the that display on the records related list are also deleted. So that's an interesting note. Oh yeah, only reports in the public folders can be mass deleted. So they have to be in that public folder. And they can't be deleted that are attached to dashboard scheduled reports or in reporting snapshots. But I wasn't sure if the sales team and the service teams, if this stuff was relevant for this particular class.
I doubt it.
Okay.
And, I'm debating with myself on this second bullet. When you delete a record, any associated records that are displayed on the records related lists are also deleted.
I just copied this right from
Salesforce. I believe you. And that's why I'm questioning, because it seems like that would only be true if it was a record that had a master detail relationship to the account. Because if you
deleted an account, the contacts would go with it.
That makes sense. I get that one.
Because that's master detail.
Yep.
But no, yeah.
It's not a master detail, but it's.
I don't know if that would make. Yeah, I think you're right. Because like if I had a contact lookup on the lead and I deleted the lead, but I had a related list for contacts on the lead, it wouldn't delete the contact.
Leads don't have a connection to the contact though.
I know, but I'm just saying like a lookup. But I could add it to our related.
Yeah, I mean,
list.
if we had like a custom object that, let's say it was, we'll just say policies for lack of anything else. So a policy lives on its own. And it has a relationship or lookup to the account. This isn't a very good scenario, but we'll say it is, because that'd probably be a master detail. But in our case, it's not going to be. I'm not positive that I kind of want to test that theory, I guess.
Huh.
Because I would think that if it's not in a master detail, I don't know what that seems unlikely that it should delete that. I don't like any associated records that just happen to be on a related lookup.
Yeah, that's pretty vague.
That's pretty broad.
I think I would just delete that, because like in our instance, we would have an invoice that would be related. And if we deleted the invoice, we may have a charge that's associated with the invoice and it doesn't delete it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a great example. It's like you wouldn't want to delete some of that accounting type information on something. If anything, I would expect it to not let you delete the record.
I was going to say, maybe it just won't let you delete it.
Yeah, right.
Like you would have to delete the related record before you delete the top level record.
So I've probably now made, if this is on the exam, I've probably made you all fail because you'll miss this question. But go test that theory, because that doesn't sound right to me. But I've never known their documentation to not be right, but that just doesn't feel right to me.
It's a feature, not a bug, Terry.
Feature is right. That's right. It is a feature. All right, cool.
That was the end.
Nice job. Covered a good chunk there.
Good deal.
Kevin, I think you were up next.
That's the word on the street. All right. Go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and see if we can present this. I never know.
Yeah, we see it. We're good. We see the presentation mode. There you go. Now it's full screen.
There we go. Clicked once. All right, data validation. And we're going to use it to maintain data quality. Data validation allows you to ensure the integrity of data before it is saved by preventing users from saving invalid field values. There are two types of validation, one being system data, the other one being custom validation rules. And with the system data, involves setting simple field properties to ensure valid data entry. Examples would be field data type, required fields, or unique fields. Custom validation rules allows you to enforce more complex conditions involving one or more fields specific to your business processes. So depending on what your business needs are, you can do your best to tailor it to ensure that you're collecting the right data or not collecting the wrong data. Custom validation rules, one thing to keep in mind though, that your custom validation rules are only executed if there were no errors with the system validation rules. So system first, custom second. Excuse me. So a little bit more on system data validation. Certain custom fields can be marked as required and or unique at the system level to force users to always enter a value or to prevent records with duplicate values. And some of these required fields are universally required on save. So if you have the required field, excuse me, auto added to all page layouts. They cannot be hidden, and they're not used for checkboxes or long text areas. So correct me if I'm wrong here, Terry, but you can't have a checkbox as a required field, correct? As what it's stating there, correct?
Right, because you don't know whether or not somebody's answered a checkbox or not. It could have just been skipped. It could be false on purpose.
Excellent.
If it was required, they would always be true.
True.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep. It does when you say it that way. I just felt I better put that in there. So unique fields stops duplicate values on save. Existing duplicates cause error, which existing duplicates cause error on unique fields. See, the way that this was all written was confusing to me to an extent. So I'm hoping for a little, maybe more detail on that part. Email. Oh, go ahead. Yes, please.
Unique values stops duplicates on save. That's when you're questioning.
Yes.
So that uniqueness is a attribute of the field when you define it, right? Okay. So when you create the field, you have a checkbox there that says this value has to be unique, and I believe that's the one that's got the upper and lower case, so case sensitivity is on that as well.
That's correct. Thank you.
Yep. So that's what that's referring to, and if that's enabled, and you go to save your record, Salesforce is going to check to make sure that that field or the record that you're entering is unique on that field.
So then the unique fields then for email number, text fields only, and text fields can be treated. There it is. Can be treated as case sensitive. So
yep, you got it. Cool.
Be careful about that. See, I just had to read a little bit further. The next one is how to make a standard field required for all users. So you would click your setup cog, go to your object manager and select which object you're looking for. Click on the page layout, and that's one way, and select the field and click on the wrench, and then go ahead and hit the required field. Is one way of doing it. You don't have to do it on the page layout because I kind of changed this a little bit. So you don't want to do that on the page layout if it's for all users. And I will tell you why in a second. So I can't fix that right now. I'll go back in there. This is why you don't want to do it on the page layout if you want it required for all users. Because you can make it, did I duplicate? I just changed. I will fix this later before I post it up. So how to make a custom field required for, can I go back actually, Terry? Yeah, right there. This is for some users, I should call that. So this would be for some, and this would be for all. How to make custom field required for all users. You click on your setup, go to the object manager, go to can go to quick find and enter the name of the object because it's a whole heck of a lot easier than scrolling. Choose which object you're working with. Under fields and relationships, select the custom field that you will make required. You want to click on and edit. Click on edit, and under the general options, select required. So you see the difference here. I showed you a standard one on the previous one where you had the wrench, and you had this. You can do that, or on your custom ones, you can go into it and click here where it says required. And always make sure that this is required upon save. And then, excuse me, you can go ahead and select the required, click on save, and now you've made that field required as well. And I am botching this, so I apologize, guys. Terry, is there any cleanup that you would like to do before I proceed to the next one?
No, I think you covered the basics there. The requirement, if you want it to be for all users, and is you have to do it at the field level.
Mm-hmm.
So object manager, that will also make it required for any API that comes into the system as well. So any integrations will also be required with that one. So page layouts are the only other option, and that is going to be specific only to that page. It does not apply to any integrations or any users not using that specific page. So it's pretty simple.
Yep. And it's the most restrictive requirements. It requires the field, as Terry was saying, to be entered all the time if you do it at the field level, regardless of how you save it. And as he was saying, through integration, API, mass upload, or through the user interface. Page layouts. Now, the next one here, if I do this right, there we go. How to make fields required for certain users. Sorry, I was doing this late last night. You want to click on the gear icon as we discussed. Go to your object manager, choose the object, and then look at the page layouts. This is how you make it only for certain users. So if you want one department that uses a different page layout versus another department, this is how you want to do it. So that department is required to get that data that you're looking for. You select page layout, you click on the wrench, call it required, click on OK, you save it. So those are really the two differences there. And only makes field required when the specific page layout that you set this requirement on is accessed. Therefore, you could technically make this required for some users that use a particular page layout, but not others. So yeah, you have that.
So a test question around that one might be something along the lines of a user is trying to import data and is getting an error related to a field that's required. How would you troubleshoot it?
A user is looking at it?
A user is importing data or something like that and getting an error.
So I would look at obviously the page layout, and if it's, or if it's not due to their page layout, it could go look at the field.
So they are importing data.
So for importing the data and they're getting the error, then it would be on a field level.
Field level, yep.
So see, it's all about which way they're doing it, right?
It is, and you probably will get something along that line.
Yes. Validation rules, which I've set one my whole entire career, and it was so stringent that we definitely removed that quickly. So what is a validation rule? It's a rule that allows you to specify your own business specific criteria to prevent users saving invalid data in one or more fields. A validation rule can contain a formula or expression that evaluates the data in one or more fields and returns a value of true or false. When the validation rule returns a value of true, this confirms that the data entered by the user contains an invalid value. So you want the true, or you don't want the true, you want a false to have it go properly. Validation rules can also include error messages to display to users when they enter invalid values based on the criteria that you specified. And you can use them on multiple areas, objects, fields, campaign members, case milestones. So they're used all over. And I put here how to create a validation rule. I found a nice trailhead that is a nice way of doing this. So I was going to go ahead and demo this if I can find what I need here.
You're also going to have to demo the link that Ashley just put in the chat there too.
It's very important.
It's critical. Yes.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right, let me bring this up here real quick.
It's too cute.
Oh, wrong one. How do I get this to? There we go. And let me go ahead and come here so I can actually see the presentation as well, because I didn't write them down. Oh, so I can't do both. All right.
If you just exit out of your presentation mode, that'll work, Kevin.
Sure. We'll just end the slideshow.
Yeah.
Because that's the last one I'm doing for you guys. All right, so you can still see my screen here, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So go here, you go to setup. I'm just going to do it on the account. Your object manager and account, because it's the first one on top. You'll see here that you have your validation rules down at the bottom. You'll see that I have nothing set up here at this time, so you come up here and click new. And then I have it all set up here, so you can put in your rule name here. So in this case, I'm going to cheat. We're going to call this the account number 8 character. So I want all my account numbers to be 8 characters. And then you can, excuse me, it's going to ask you, you can put a description in there. You don't have to. It's going to give you your error condition formula. And I'm stealing this straight out of Trailhead, because why not? Make sure there's no spaces at all, nothing extra. You want to check your syntax. Obviously, it's going to be good because, you know, we're stealing that from Trailhead. You can put in the error message in which I spoke of. Put that right there. And then basically hit save. And it's really this one's a real simple one. As is stated, you can get really complex with this. I have done it in the past, as I stated as well. And it was so stringent that no one could save anything. We kept on throwing errors. It was validation rules regarding if there was an alert on an account that we should not say something to someone, or we can't email them, or, you know, stuff like that. So if you had to keep on checking these check boxes, and can't remember which route we went. Anyhow, that's what I have there. I mean, that's simple, but they can get real complex. So, but I think the bigger ones are how to set the requirements on the, you know, field level itself, or if you're going to, you know, and if you're using the page layout to do so or not, is where you'll find a lot of the stuff. Terry, anything else to add on there?
Nope. Other than Ashley's nice little picture there that she included.
I haven't been able to get there yet.
So that's cool. If you haven't messed up a validation rule, then you probably haven't been in Salesforce very long. But
every time.
Every time. Yeah. So I wanted to go back to the one that we were debating earlier on the deleting of an account and if it deletes its children. So I ran into a sandbox real quick and I created a custom object. I just simply called it test, and it's got all of our default fields on it and then a lookup to the account object. I do not have that defined to do anything crazy like what to do if the lookup is deleted. In this case, it just clears the value. So if I go to my account, this is my account object. And if I look at the related list, I've got a test record there. That test record is this record in that tab. So I'm going to delete my account. It goes away. And if I refresh over here at my test record, you can see my test record is there, account is just blank. That's what I was expecting to have happen.
Yeah.
Now, the difference there would have been if I would have changed that requirement on this field. So here I could have said, don't allow deletion, and then it would have stopped me, which I think, Reg, is what you were saying with the example that you gave. So there you go. I don't know why Salesforce has that worded the way they did in their documentation, but hopefully that helps.
Do we write them a letter? How does this work?
Formal complaint.
Yeah, right. We'll forward this video to them and say, hey, you're wrong. Hey everyone, I just wanted to interrupt briefly to again say thank you to our sponsor, the Des Moines Area Community College. Here locally we call them DMACC, dmac.edu. If you are interested in any form of education, continuing ed, please check out their website. We are working closely together to get some Salesforce specific training put together. So check that out if you're interested in learning more and having a classroom style training for Salesforce. Thanks again to the wonderful folks at DMACC. All right, Reg, I've got you up next with record types.
Okay. Share my screen here. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet. I have to hit that share button on the multi. There it comes. You got it.
Okay. Okay, can you see that there?
Looks good.
All right, so I'm going to run through, I went through and did some snippets and just ran through how to create a Salesforce report. And then I was going to just do an example in our live org, if that's all right.
Long as it's not confidential. Remember, you're being recorded. So
no,
as long as you're comfortable with it.
Yeah, okay. Just with creating reports, there are obviously 4 different types of reports. And I think reporting is why a majority of us use Salesforce. So I think it's an important part, but it's also not a difficult part. So there's a tabular, which is that's the most simple report that you can create, like in an Excel spreadsheet, and it shows data. Basically like an Excel spreadsheet without a need to show calculations or groups of data. And then there's a summary report, and this is as soon as you add grouping, you basically take a tabular report and turn it into a summary report. Summary reports are probably the most commonly used and are great for showing groups of data. If you want to see a number of values of opportunities per an account, you would group your reports to the account name. And you can also subgroup fields by dragging them onto the initial group. And then there's a matrix report, which is basically rows and columns used in a report. It's similar to the summary, but they allow you to group by rows as well as columns to see different totals. Building the example above, you might want to see a value of opportunities per account by month. And then there's also joined reports. Joined reports allow you to create 2 separate reports that allow you to compare data. So you could use a joined report to show a total number of opportunity cases per account side by side. So just go to the next slide here. This is pretty simple how to create a report. Obviously, you're going to click on your app launcher if your reports tab is not present. And then click on the reports tab and then select new report. And then obviously you're going to select your report type. If it's just a standard report, you can select it out of here, or you can create a custom report and then click continue. Then that'll bring you to this report canvas. So obviously you're going to start at the filters tab. and then you can update your custom filters, add filters, change which data you're using as far as if it's yours or all of it in the org, or if it's specific users report. So we can go in and create reports that are just, for specific users, or if we're wanting to investigate, a user and send that to management, we can quarantine that data. One thing that is helpful while building these reports with this canvas is selecting that update preview automatically. Otherwise, if you don't have that turned on, there will be a refresh button that populates right here. Then you can go into the outline. This is where you choose the fields that are displayed in your report. Native reports come with certain fields displayed as default. You can remove these by clicking on these X's here that are in native. You can also add your own fields for field name by selecting a field name. Fields can be reordered just by simply dragging and dropping in this column or group. And then obviously you have to refresh up here in order to get your report to update. Then once you've clicked the Save and Run tab, which is above here, this populates. You can go through and select a custom report name. Obviously, leave a bit of a description, and then save that. That's we just basically created a tabular report. So there's not difficult to create custom reports. That is just a simple custom report that was created. There are multiple things that you can do with these reports. So in Lightning, you can a user can subscribe to up to 5 reports, which you will then receive an email. To subscribe, the user must have access to the folder a report is stored in, and you can choose to receive the email report daily, weekly, monthly, or on a specific day and time. In some instances, the native report won't cut it. Perhaps you need your report with on more than 2 objects, or you want a report to display records without an associated record, for example, contacts without accounts. In this instance, you would need a custom report type. Custom report types have multiple benefits, multiple objects. You can add up to 4 layers of objects as long as they have a parent-child relationship. And fields via lookup, you can add fields to report from any related object. And you can create, remove, rename, and reorder sections and fields. And default columns, you can control which columns are already displayed on a report when you create a new one. This just shows basically parent-child relationships and how they affect a report. Custom report types come in when you want to go beyond the standard and auto-created report types. Great examples of when you look to create a custom report type, or if you need to report on more than 2 objects at one time, or report without using a relationship, basically with contacts without an account instead of just with a relationship. So I was going to go in to a live org so that we have some live data, and I just wanted to use basically a case. So this is a roll-off company, and we have got a fleet of containers that we're trying to organize and verify. And so I've already created this report. So can you guys see it all right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to just go through and create a new report to show you guys how simple it is to create one, if that's all right. So just click on the reports tab and then a new report here. And then I'm going to go find my containers, which is here. And then I'm just going to click continue. And then from there, you can see it doesn't bring in all of everything that I want that's associated with the record that I want. So if I want to add a group, I can do a group by, like, say, container size. And then this is the refresh button that I was referring to. So if you click that, that'll pull the container size in. And then one thing I wanted to note when you're doing reports is the preview is limited. So I know that I have more than this amount, but until we actually save and run the report, it will not pull more data in. So this is just an example that it's given you. And so another column that I want to bring into this report is if they're verified. And so I'm going to bring that column in and then click refresh again. And so now I have whether or not the units are verified, because that's what we're trying to do, is verify that these units exist and that we have an image of them saved with each object that we've created. So now that I have that done, there's also a filter that came on automatically, and that filter was my containers. So this report would be just for records that are created under this user. So I want to go to all containers and then just apply that and then hit refresh again. And then I can just hit save and run, and I'm going to just change it to new verified 1, and then just type that in and hit save. Okay, and so it's going to display the report that we just created. And so there's a total of 971 records that are created, and only 352 of them are verified. So I can use this report and go down and determine which container and asset numbers haven't been verified, or there's not an image, or that the record hasn't been updated in Salesforce. And we can get some eye candy here by adding a chart quickly. So you just click that chart icon, and this will give me a sum of verified. And so that's real simple. And then if I want to change that to a different type of chart, just click the gear icon. And this here kind of shows me what sizes I need to focus on and get verified. So another thing that I wanted to talk about in reports was, and this may be covering some of Debbie's topic, but show you how to subscribe. So if I got a new container report here, I can just click back to reports and come over and click this drop down and then subscribe. And I can also, these are the other features that we can do. We can run, edit Salesforce Classic, subscribe, export, delete, add it to a dashboard or a favorite, or move it. So subscriptions, we can schedule our subscriptions, and we can also choose the recipients that they go to. And then another thing, if you create a report, you can show them a report as per a specific user. So if you see a report that's refreshed in a different dashboard, it'll specify who the user is that created that report, and it just allows you to know where that report is coming from. So is there anything else, Terry, that we need to cover?
The only thing, if you go back in and edit that report, I was just gonna, or you can even just view it either way. Your new report that you had.
Okay, go back to the actual
to your actual report that you created in
yep.
Salesforce. Yeah. The toggles down at the bottom of the page.
Yep.
Talk to me about those.
Okay.
So the row count, that's just giving you that total record up at the top.
Yep.
The toggle down at the very bottom. Yep. right there. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead and turn that one back on, and then do the detail roles. That one is going to then, if you scroll down, just give you the summation of each of your segments, right? So scroll down on your report a little bit.
Yep.
So now you just see the size without all of the detail records. Subtotals, that's going to give you a total per section.
Okay, and is that right here?
Yep. Hide your detail again, and it'll be easier to see it. Actually, it didn't do anything different, did it? Turn subtotals back on. What does it do? Did absolutely nothing. All right, cool. Grand total, I think, is the one at the very bottom, right?
Yep.
And so that gets rid of that total at the bottom. Awesome.
So,
I just be aware of those toggles. I think that would be good.
So one question: does every user have access to this, or can you remove this? Okay. No. Okay.
That's a good question. I don't. Does anybody on here excellent with reports? I think that they have the ability to do that. I don't know that we can remove that.
What was the question again? Sorry, my dog was
on the toggles down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Can those be? Can we prevent users from changing those, from toggling things on and off?
I don't think I've ever tested that.
I don't think we can, but I know we can prevent them from saving it.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think you can take it away though.
And on the filters inside the report, when you're editing, you can choose some filters that they don't have the ability to adjust. You can lock some of those, so that's good to know. But yeah, I think that's good. When you create a new object, are you always going to get a new report type to associate to the data in that object?
If you refresh, is that what you're asking?
No, you're creating a brand new object in Salesforce, and you want to then you put data in it, and you want to run a report on it. Are you going to see a record type for that object?
Isn't that a toggle when you make the new object?
Yes, good call, Ashley. That's exactly right, what I was looking for. Yep. So your objects can control whether or not you're going to be able to report on the data in that object. So yeah, when you create your object, there's a series of checkboxes there. One of them is reports, allow reports, I think is what it's called. So yeah, be aware of that one, because that's a good troubleshooting type scenario question.
Can you give me a little help on this account and opportunity agreement, like the parent-child relationship as far as reporting goes?
Yeah, so in this scenario, you're creating a brand new record type, and you're basically defining the objects that you want to have available within your report type. And so you're starting at the account level, and you are including then opportunities, because there's a relationship between opportunities and accounts. You would not be able to create this if there wasn't a relationship. There always has to be some form of a relationship when you're creating these report types. So opportunities has a lookup to account that lets you do that. So what it's saying in the section, the two radio boxes below it, is what kind of relationship do you want to establish between or for your report type. So kind of think of it like your ands and ors. Do you want it to include records only if there's a record in both, or is it in one and not the other? So I always like the little picture the circle diagram that they have off to the right hand side, because it just visually makes sense. So the blue circle is A, and the gold circle is the opportunities. So accounts and opportunities, and the radio box there is saying that I only want records that have both an account and an opportunity, because that's where the little gray section is on those intersecting circles. And then to take it one level deeper, they add in agreements. So now we're doing accounts and opportunities and agreements. So in this case, they chose on the agreements, they said B records may or may not have a C record. So that it's opportunities and accounts. Let me say that different. Accounts and opportunities, and accounts and opportunities or agreements is really what it's coming down to. Accounts and opportunities or agreements. And the intersecting circles really kind of make it easier to follow. But if you're trying to do a report, and you mentioned this, Reg, which was good call out. If you're trying to do a report where you need to know, say, how many accounts don't have an activity associated to them, for example, you would have to create a custom report type for that. And then you would use that relationship, those radio boxes, to choose which way you're going to allow data to be presented in that report type. So it's kind of like a filter, but it's a really important one, because if you don't choose the right report type going in, you're going to not get the data that you're expecting on your report. So it would be really easy in this particular example to have it be accounts and opportunities and agreements. And the only thing you're going to get on your report is if all three of those exist. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's an important piece to kind of understand. I think, to me, the circles tell the story the easiest, probably better than I can explain it. That gray area is what's going to be included.
So
Question?
another thing that I have come across is that records or fields with a zero value won't display on a report either. Is that correct? So like if you have a list of, like, and on the accounting side, if you have a GL account and it's got a zero balance, then it will not display on the report. Is that correct?
Probably depends on the relationship in that scenario.
Okay.
I could see that potentially being true, but that zero balance is probably tied to like invoices or something. And
Yeah.
if there's no open invoices, maybe I could see how that could present that scenario to you. Yeah. Cool. Good job. Nice job. All right. I did want to mention real quick before we leave that DMACC has set up a new introductory course to Salesforce, and I got to the wrong page. Let me get to the right page. It timed out on me and I missed the right thing. So if you know people who are interested in actually a in-class style training, maybe this is going to come up. The Salesforce introductory course is going to be available. It's reasonably inexpensive. So if you know anybody that's interested in that, please reach out to DMACC regarding that. I think it's going to come. And so I will share that link. I'll put it also on the YouTube video as well, so that if people are interested, they can get signed up for that course. I'm not sure why that's taking so long to bring up, but do be aware of that. That's an awesome opportunity. Joseph Pearson and Jackie Askelson will be the instructors for that. they taught that class with me on the first time we went around. They're fantastic. You'll love them. And so would encourage people to get registered for that.